you are. Here I am, Pastor George Borghardt. We're going to do Bible study today. Jacob's going to wrestle with God. But first, we got to wait for some folks to show up. Got to wait for some folks to show up. That's insane. I'm excited to be here. I hope you are too. Remember, we have a conversation between us. The way this works is we go through the text together. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, then you share them in the channel, and I'll get to them as I see them. Good afternoon, Steve, Judy, Cheryl, Bobby, Joe, all the folks that are regulars that are showing up. Linda Kimmel from Baton Rouge. Good. Cindy, on the road again. The Pellegrinis. The Pellegrinis are here. Hi there, Thor. So I got to make a couple of shares, and after I do that, we'll be cooking with the gas. Hey, buddy, what's going on? Yes, you are, Thor. Yes, you are. I was a little bit late today. I was somebody had brought me I turned 20 years in the ministry, and someone brought me a belated gift, and they wanted to make sure that I had received it. They're big Packer fans, Dr. Hune and his family, and they wanted to get me a Hawaiian shirt. So they wanted me to wear it with you, but that's just not going to happen. But they somehow thought that this would be appropriate for me. Yeah. Because, it has, what looks like liturgical stripes on it. Yeah. I just don't know. I love Packer fans. I like Bears fans better, but the Packer fans have always made me laugh in the sense that, you come into church in the Trinity season, and the Packer fans are all like, nice of you to represent. It's like, no, the green's the color of the season. And the gold too, Pastor? Yes, kind of. Hi, Maggie. Hi, Priscilla. Monica, the Lord be with you. Hope you're staying with us, Monica. I hope that you've been able to keep up with us. Terry Lynn. No, it wasn't Inside Out, Sandra. This is the way it actually looks. I mean, it's there's the tag, and it almost looks liturgical. Yeah. Let's take a look at the text. We left. Hi, bud. Gotcha. We left, and Joseph was preparing to meet. He was preparing to meet Esau. And remember, he had skated out of town early. And get your finger off the space bar, man. You're going to disconnect us. And so, yeah, awesome shirt. You would think that, Maggie. So let's see what we can do here with, there we go, with logos. So remember, to sort of remind you of yesterday's stuff, Jacob is headed back from Laban. He has made up with Laban. They've hogged it out. And so he turns his attention to heading back to, what you doing there, bub? He turns his attention to heading back toward Canaan. But what's waiting for him is Esau. And so he sends a servant to tell Esau that he's headed that way. And the servant comes back. Hey, look here, buddy. Look here. The servant comes back and says, yes, your Lord Esau is coming, but he's bringing 400 men. And we had the dramatic music. Dun, dun, dun! And so, yeah. So Jacob is very, very, very concerned. He prays a prayer, which is the great prayer, which is the best way of praying. We talked about this yesterday. The best prayers are those prayers in which the Lord's words and promises are repeated back to him. So you told me, Lord, to that you would be with me. You told me, Lord, to go back to Canaan. You said that my descendants would be as numerous as the sands on the seashore if I could number them. But my brother Esau is coming for me with 400 men. 400 men. 400 men. 400 men. 400 men. And I'm a little afraid. All right? 400 men. All right, let's rock and roll this, shall we? The dog is cuter, Donald. I'll answer that right now. I'm old. I don't even know how old I am. Today I had to be corrected. I was like, I was ranting about something. I've been in this earth 45 years. And I'm not going to allow negative people to alter my course and steal my joy from me. That was earlier in my life, but I'm not going to allow that to happen. And the person like, you're not 45 anymore, Pastor. I'm like, oh, well, I've been on this earth for 46 years. No, Pastor, you're not 46 years old. I'm 47 years old. And then I did the math, 220, and that ended with the fact that I'm 47. So the same night, so it's the dog that's cuter. Trust me. I love the Hebrew word for night. Lay. So the same night he rose and took his 2 wives. Let's see if I can make that a little bigger so you have less background. You need less background. He took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, his 11 children, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. And if the verses don't line up, it's, as we discussed yesterday, for some reason, this happens occasionally, oh, that's not good. Hey, Thor, can you bring that here? Bring that here, buddy. Bring that here. Don't destroy that plastic thing here. Come here. Get in your bed. Don't destroy pieces of plastic and eat them. That's bad for you. Oh, he would be in this mood. I was at a funeral all day today, and he's been under his own recognizance. He took them and set them across the stream and everything else that he had. And it's almost sad. There's a hint of this that, is he preparing to die? Is he preparing to... he's divided everything up into 2 camps so that if one camp is attacked by Esau, the other camp will... And so... Hey, Thor, can you bring that here? Be a good boy. Come, bring that here. Come. Oh, he's destroying a piece of plastic. Anyway, maybe we'll distract him. I'm sorry for the distractions. And Jacob was left alone. So his family, his stuff is across the stream. And he's on the other side. And Jacob, verse 25, and Jacob was left alone. He was left over. And then the strangest thing happened. A man wrestled with him all night long. A man wrestled him. Excuse me? Come here, young pup. Okay, you don't want this. In your bed. All right, good boy. Stay. He wrestled with the man until the dawn, till the break of day. I could not come up with a until the dawn. Hebrew word shachar is dawn. Good boy. verse 25 in English, 26 in Hebrew. When the man saw that he was not able to strike out against Jacob, well, he wasn't able to prevail against Jacob. He sees that he's not able to win. So Jacob's wrestling with this man, and Jacob is going one-on-one with the Great One, and he's not able to prevail. The guy, he strikes the socket of Jacob's hip, and Jacob's hip is it's out of socket. It's sort of it's out of joint. So he touches the socket of it. The hip comes out of joint as he's wrestling with him. And the man says to Jacob, Shalach me, let me go. For the day is the dawn is here. It's dawn. The dawn arises. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. It's a lovely dislocation. Thank you, Monica. Who's the man? Who's the man? We'll get to that in just a second. Who's the man? Very good question. Thanks, Nadine. My brother Landon and I, we used to regulate together. We're about the same age in spirit. Because Landon acts a little older than I do. Good catches today, Thor. So he says, I will not let you go unless you... So he's got Jacob and him wrestling. Jacob and the man. And the man strikes Jacob's hip with his hand. And his hip goes out of socket. Must have punched it. And even though that's going on, Jacob won't release the sleeper hold. He won't release the hold. And so, and he said to him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob, which is, remember, he grasps. He's sort of a trickster, but no more. 28. What's your name? Jacob. Then he said, your name shall not be Jacob, shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel. For you have Israeled with God, you have contended with God, you have struggled with God, you have fought with God and with men, and prevailed. Now, this is just so important, because everything after this flows from this. Don't miss this. So who's wrestling? Jacob and the man. The man. Jacob and the man. And the man changes Jacob's name like he owns Jacob, like Jacob is his. Boy, he is odd dogging me. Is that sort of like a 2-year-old wrestles with his daddy? I think it's actual, like they fought. They fought all night. And again, context is key here. That Have you noticed? Okay, Cindy. I realize that's not a real sleep. He could have had him in some sort of. Why don't you tell me an actual wrestling hold, Cindy? What I would say is, he wouldn't let him go. He wouldn't release him. I won't let you go until you bless me. What's your name? Jacob. Your name's no longer going to be Jacob. It's going to be Israel. Because you've Israeled with God and you've prevailed. And men. I think they fought. They scrapped. Good thing Thor is... or you would have had a blank screen for a wee bit while I went and got that thing that he was chewing on. Monica's listing all a bunch of... Put him in a figure four. He put it. He put him in a. Anyway. So from now on, Israel is going to be known by a name that either means you've wrestled with God, you've fought with God, or it could mean God's fighter. And Israel does both. Israel is both God's fighter Israel is both God's fighter and one who fights with God. They're both. And if in actuality the church is the same, you're the same. You both sometimes fight for God and other times you fight with God. So I have no problems with both translations working. I most commonly think of this as, I'm in the zone here. Most commonly, I think, I'm getting to it. I'm going to get to who's the man. I think it was a cross face. How's that? Does that help, Cindy? He held him in a cross face and he would not let go. And I want you to sort of contemplate that this is going on as Jacob is literally struggling with God. So he's literally wrestling with God, and he is emotionally and mentally wrestling with God too. Both are going on. Oh no, there's only 2 treats left. Oh no. So Jacob is praying to God, you got to get me out of this. He's coming. 400 men. Remember the shock face? Dun, dun, dun. And he won't let go from God. He won't let go of God's promise. You brought me into this. You're going to bloody well get me out of it. And he won't let go of God physically. Oops, that was short. Pride cometh before fall. So what I love about this is that both struggling is going on at the same time. The utter fear of the impending doom coming from Esau. As I said yesterday, the OG evil orange dude. And his actual wrestling with God for God to keep his promises. Luther. The wrestler therefore reveals himself when he says that Jacob has fought with God and men. And in the fight, he gives him a new name. El signifies God. Investigations have been made by all the fathers. What's the significance of the word Israel? It was. But, he wrestles with God, or he fights with God. fights for God. Now I want you to sort of take this in though. So if you were trying to figure out who this is that Jesus that Jacob is wrestling with, he identifies himself as God and man. He has wrestled with God, and he has wrestled with men. So, God and men. And Israel's going to wrestle with both. But I want you to sort of, so we're looking for a God and a mankind. So do we know anybody who is God and man? And I don't, and by men, I think it's collective men. Yes. So I guess it has to be Jesus, Maggie. And now, oftentimes, folks will do the thing where they're like, well, this is the pre-incarnate Christ. I don't know any other Christ other than Jesus. So if you want him to be pre-incarnate at this point, that's great. But let's just sort of contemplate all of our Jesus moments. I've told you that when you hear the Lord, to think of Jesus. And so Jesus was walking in the cool of the day. Jesus was the one who went to Cain and said, sin's crouching at your door. Jesus of Noah, build me a big, big boat. Jesus of Abraham, I'm going to make you the father of many nations. Jesus here. Don't lock, you can't keep Jesus' love in a box. I would look for him everywhere, but here he is unmissable. Well, how can God be beaten or stalemated by men? How does that happen? Well, you know the answer to that. When God becomes flesh, you can do things to God that you could never do to God before. God becomes hungry. God is born. God cries. God gets hungry. Well, hello there. How's it going, bud? You can say things about God that you could never say before. God weeps. And then, when God becomes flesh in the person of Jesus, you can drive nails into God's hands and feet, and you can fling him up above on a cross. I wish you could see this. He is literally like this. Underneath the that's not Corona, that's Mountain Dew going the wrong way. So God in the flesh wrestles with Jacob, and Jacob prevails. God and sinners prevail so that sinners could be saved. I have this one last piece, which I'm going to place here in the hopes that he does not go back to the bad things he was doing before. And all of this is wrapped tight in the awfulness of Jacob's impending reunited, and it feels so good with Esau. For the rest of Scripture, Israel's going to be fighting with God and men. For the rest of Scripture, God and men are going to be tussling. God and Israel. Back to the plastic bag. Hey, Thor, can you bring that here? Oh, bring it here, buddy. Bring it here. I'm worried that he's going to... Well, we'll see that plastic later. Come. Ooh, come. Got a small piece of treat that I can bribe you with. Jacob asked him, verse 30, please tell me your name. Tell me your name. But he said, why do you ask my name? And there he blessed him. Verse 30, which is verse 31 in Hebrew. Jacob called the place Penuel, which literally means face of El, face of God. For I have seen God's face, God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered. Can you bring that here, Thor, please? Oh, that's going to be really bad. I'm sure he's not going to eat that plastic. The sun rose upon him as he passed Penuel, limping because of his hip. And therefore to this day the people of Israel do not eat the sinew of the thigh that is on the hip socket, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip on the sinew of the thigh. This is a self-imposed practice which is not in the Old Testament. And you know, Maggie, I would have to agree with you that this is one that he fought for. This is a blessing that he worked for. Yeah. Hey there, little guy. How you doing? There is a way that I can keep you from playing with that plastic, but it involves the squeak toy, which I took away from you yesterday. Here you go, buddy. Sit here. Jacob lifted his eyes, and behold, Esau is coming, 400 men with him. So he divided the children amongst Leah and Rachel and the two servants. Why does he do this? It's children stand behind stand behind mama, because his beef is with me, not with you. And he put the children with their actually in front. He put the servants with their children in front, then Leah with her children, and then Rachel and Joseph at last. And so his fave, wife and kid, is at the end of the line with Leah and her children, with the servant and her children. A definite pecking order of Jacob's love. First the servants and their children, then Jacob, and then Leah and her children, and then Rachel and Joseph. And he himself went on before them, bowing himself. You know, this is a profound bow. This is not, he didn't get down on his knees and he didn't get down on his knees. Although the word is proskunesin in the Septuagint, I think this is more like an Oriental bow. He bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. And this is the moment. This is it. And will all of Jacob's trickeration, all of his sins finally be visited upon him? Is this the time in which he finally gets what's coming to him? He tested as the most normal person in the sim in 2000. Is he finally going to get what's coming to him? Is all of his mischief finally going to, and theft and sin finally going to get him? or is it taken away by the guy who he wrestled with? Esau ran and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the two of them wept. You know, just when you think that, just when you think that Jacob's going to get what is coming to him and Esau's going to finally extract his revenge, it doesn't happen. Instead, Esau runs to his brother, grabs him, falls on him. Yes, that's the power of love. And just imagine Jacob as Esau's running toward him, and he doesn't know what's going to happen. And his kids and all of it, he doesn't know what's going to happen. And all of a sudden, Esau grabs him, and he hugs him, and he falls on his neck, and he kisses him, and then they both weep. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. And Jacob burst into song. We are family. I'm sorry. I couldn't. I think the 400 men, Cheryl, were a complete and total gift. When Esau lifted up his eyes and saw the women and the children, who are these with you? Jacob said, verse 5, the children whom God has graciously given to your servant. And then the children drew near. The servants drew near, they and their children, and they also bowed down. Have a blessed day, Brian. Thanks for being amongst us. Leah, likewise, and her children bowed down. And last, Joseph and Rachel drew near, and they bowed down. All of the humility and Esau says, oh, Brian, we'll be praying for Brian, for Pastor Gary, that the good physician will grant him either a blessed death or by grace, heal him. I'll be praying for that, Brian. Thank you. What do you mean by all this company I met? He says, what's going on with all the camps? And Jacob said, to find favor in your sight, Lord. And then the miracle. Esau said to him, my brother, keep your stuff. I have enough. Jacob, please, if I've found favor in your sight, then accept the gifts from my hand. For I've seen your face, or see you face to face, which is like seeing the face of God, and you have received me. Like, I want you to sort of take this in for a second. Jacob's like, look, I got done going one-on-one with El Shaddai back there. And then I come here And as much of a miracle as that was, this is a miracle. And I saw your face, and I saw God's face, and your face is like showing me that God's for me. It's like seeing the face of God. And you have received me. You have accepted me. You have befriended me. So please accept what I brought you, because God has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough. And thus he urged him, and he took it. It's only stuff. It's only stuff. Just take it. I have enough. Well, I have enough too. And God's given me my stuff. And so, you know why I have stuff? I have stuff to give to others. And we should learn from Jacob here. I don't believe Jacob is buying his way out of this. I think Jacob just sees the proper place of things. And there's faith here, which says and believes that God's going to give more than we could possibly ask. That's the way of faith. And then Esau said, and he urged him, he took it. Esau said, let us journey on our way. I will go ahead of you. But Jacob said, my Lord knows that the children are frail, and that the nursing flocks of the herds are a care to me. If they are driven hard for one day, all the flocks will die. Let the Lord pass on ahead of your servant, and I will lead on slowly, at the pace of the livestock, and that are ahead of me, and the pace of the children, until I come to my Lord in Seir. Let me go ahead of you. I'll protect you, says the older brother. And Jacob's like, we can't keep up with you. Okay. Reuben's like 13. So instead, we'll just catch you at Seir. I think, though, trying to finish this section. Jacob is really sharp. Jacob isn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. Is that the expression? So Jacob basically it convinces Esau to take things. And when Esau's like, I'll protect you, Jacob's like, yeah, it's like Thor is a little bit aggressive if you ever meet him. And so I've learned with Thor to introduce people really fast and then be on the way before he does what Jack Russells do, which is either jump up with his mouth open or nip inadvertently, or because his targeting sensors are a little off. So, like, when I greet someone, a stranger, and then the greeting goes well, and I don't have to, and he like smells them and doesn't try to kill them, I bug out, because we've had a successful day, and let's not test this thing. And I think there's a little bit of that with Jacob. This has gone miraculously well. You do not have to be my protection. Because there may be a little part of Jacob that thinks he still needs protection from Esau. But, I'll just catch you up there. And praise God that this has worked out the way it's worked out. Praise God for that. And Esau, who I think he's just caring for his brother, Esau says, well, let me leave some people with you who are with me. So the answer to the question is best construction, whoever asked why the 400 people. If you asked Esau why the 400 people, Esau would say, for the protection of my brother. I'm looking out for my little brother. Which, That's marvelous. Um, is that really the reason? I don't know. Did something change in Esau over the night or on the way? Did he bring him for? I don't know. All I know is that it appears from the text, if we were just to take Esau for what he says, he brought those for the protection of Jacob and his family. Maybe a little like Jacob's sons going to Joseph a few decades later, uncertain as if he would forgive them. Best to just make sure that things are going to stay good. I like that, Pastor Lustico. It's good to see you, Newman. So let me leave some men with you. And Jacob's like, what need is there? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord. So look, there's no need for you to do this. And there's no need for you to leave people with me. And so I'm just gonna do this and everything's gonna be fine. And I just have a hard time believing that Jacob isn't like, this is going so well, I do not need to wreck this with more time with with Esau. I have a hard time that Jacob, who is so trickery, so full of sort of mischief, isn't like, you know what, this worked out and I'm just gonna cut. I'm gonna win and I'm gonna leave. And also, Esau has a lot of animals too that Jacob just gave to him. Thank you, Maggie. Esau returned to that day on his way to Seir. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built himself a house and made booths for his livestock. And therefore the name of the place is called Succoth, which means booths. And Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, on the way to Padan Aram, and he camped before the city. And the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, he brought 400 pieces of money and the pieces of land on which he had pitched his tent. And there he erected an altar and called it El Elohe Israel, which everything means something, means God, the God of Israel. We're going to stop here because I have to take my son to Jacob uses the name God gives him to confess his God, to erect an altar and say, look at the God, look at this altar to the God, my God, the God of Israel. The NIV notes say that he purchased the money. He purchased the property. That's the exchange of money. So he buys property. He plans on settling there. I think we've had a really good study tonight, but I want to sort of reiterate to you a couple of things. Jacob wrestles with God physically and prayerfully, and God comes through for him. And the best prayers are those prayers which hold God to his words and promises. And then the beautiful reconciliation with Esau. And Edom's going to be a problem later on. And so Jacob is not wrong in it. Edom's going to be a problem later on in the Bible. But today, and Jacob, who is himself kind of crafty, just, takes the hug, takes the kiss. Please take the gifts. Please, please, please take the gifts. I'll feel better if you take the gifts. And then, well, can I walk you over there? No. You're too important for this. You go. Well, what if I leave some men to protect you? It's really okay. It's really okay because I have the stuff I had before. I gave most of it to you. I think so much of this is just how to pray, how to be a Christian, how to wrestle with God and prevail. But Jacob is a flawed Israel. And I think a good thing to do would be to see and to think about over the course of the weekend an Israel that doesn't fail, an Israel that goes into the wilderness, an Israel that comes out of the wilderness faithful. Out of Egypt I have called my son. An Israel that's tempted but doesn't fail. An Israel that is God's son and fights for God rather than with God, and is faithful unto death, even death on the cross. So have a blessed day. Don't forget to go to the store.higherthings.org and pick yourself up some Higher Things merch. I've got an old cup here, but there's far better stuff in the Higher Things store. Store.higherthings.org. Go and get some stuff today. Support this Bible study. I started this Bible study for my church. It was picked up by Higher Things. They're the sponsor of it, and they're the ones that are promoting it. And I want to make sure that you support their good work. Give today. You can also give a donation at support.higherthings.org. Gene, good to see you. Thanks for watching. Cheryl, have a great day. And I will see you, one of us, either me or the dean, will see you on Monday. Have a great day.